The Dragon Ball Sparking Zero hype is gradually getting more and more real, and it would honestly be nuts if it was released around the same time as Dragon Ball Daima. Probably a little later, maybe even in December or early next year even. We're talking about one of the most ambitious anime games to date here, fellas. This is going to be the first Dragon Ball game to be exclusive to PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. It's also the first Budokai Tenkaichi game to be on Steam, believe it or not. Plus, it's also going to feature content from Dragon Ball Super, which is going to be a first as well for Tenkaichi. And from what we've seen so far, this may be the best a Dragon Ball game has ever looked, especially the designs for like Broly and for both the versions of Future Trunks. They look insane. When the game is in the final stages and all polished up, I'm expecting it to look even better than Fighters and Kakarot easily, but we'll see. Of course, we won't be able to say for certain until the game is like in our possession. Maybe it's because of the superhero film, but this might be the first time that 3D designs of Dragon Ball characters have just felt this natural, I guess. The facial expressions and even the auras they emit, it seems like just pretty natural and expressive, if that makes sense. I like it. This feels like it's gonna be a really immersive fighting game for anime fans. It has like all the bells and whistles going for it right now. Obviously, not every character is gonna look perfect, and knowing anime games, the first week to month even of release will probably be kind of rough, but it looks like they're taking their time fine-tuning things even more every time we get an up. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 had 161 characters, including all the different forms. We thought that was great, right? But Sparking Zero is going to go even further beyond. We're talking about 164 characters, and we're getting a bunch of badass characters from Super this time around, which could be good or bad depending on how you look at the roster size. Naturally, there are the Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan Blue transformations of both Goku and Vegeta, but then we also have Broly and all his wrathful transformations. There's Kale and her Berserk form too. And speaking of characters from other universes, we've got Jiren, Hit, Toppo, Dispo, Bergamo, and even Kakunsa. No Ribrianne spotted yet. Kinda weird, but she for sure has to be coming if we got Kakunsa footage already, right? And many more characters, even more, have been revealed by the time I'm making this video, like Beerus, Whis, and Gohan. So we got a lot to look forward to, and even with no release date yet, they're keeping the hype alive. Of course, more characters doesn't necessarily always mean better though, but it should technically be better than Tenkaichi 3, right? And if so, how much better are we talking? Well, first, let's go over everything we know so far and try to see exactly how good Dragon Ball Sparking Zero could be while, trying to be as unbiased as possible, because I do honestly have a few worries about the game. Yes, there is still that ever so small chance that this could turn out to not be the game we're all hoping it will be. We're all sitting here hoping that this is going to be the best Dragon Ball game ever, but if what we're being told is true, then there's definitely a lot to look forward to. And just to clear it up, Sparking Zero isn't actually anything new. You can honestly just call this Tenkaichi 4 if you want to. You wouldn't be wrong. The thing about the name is that this is actually the first time around that they decided to go with the original Japanese title, even for overseas localization. For example, pop quiz, do you guys know what the previous Budokai Tenkaichi games are known as in Japan? Alright, pause the video and don't cheat, man. So the previous titles were known as Dragon Ball Z Sparking, Dragon Ball Z Sparking Neo, and Dragon Ball Z Sparking Meteor. Yeah, this one is just basically the continuation of Budokai Tenkaichi 3, but it's going to be in Unreal Engine 5. And as we just talked about, it's going to have the biggest roster of characters we've ever seen from any Dragon Ball game. As it says on their official website, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has a historic number of playable characters, each with signature abilities, transformations, and techniques. So while we are in for a couple of new things here and there, this is going to be the same old Budokai Tenkaichi, although better this time. The addition of characters like Jiren, Broly, and Hit, not to mention all the Super Saiyan God transformations, I feel like it's going to be worth the wait. It does make you wonder why they decided to keep the OG Japanese title just for this game in particular though. But maybe that just makes it easier for new fans to hop in. I don't know. Even the most casual fans will probably know that this is just Budokai Tenkaichi 4 when the game finally comes out. But a fresh new title to most of us overseas will probably intrigue a lot of people, right? It's almost been 2 decades since Tenkaichi 3 was released. That was all the way back in November of 2004. Tekken 5 also came out in the same month, and this year we finally got Tekken 8, so maybe that's a little bit of a sign. Sparking Zero may very well be to Tenkaichi 3 what Tekken 8 is to Tekken 5, and maybe that's a stretch, let me know, but when you start to, look at things like that, the hype just gets even more real, right? The gameplay we've seen from the trailers, the attacks, and the raging auras, it's all sick, but what's gonna make it even better is how realistically the battle stages are gonna react to the environmental destruction caused by all of the players. We already know that this is gonna be one of their main focuses though, as the developers have already said this themselves. We're gonna get all the new gen graphics and pretty attacks and transformations, but the stages themselves are gonna be really significant. It feels spontaneous and authentic enough already if we go off the trailers, and because we're getting Jiren and the others, we may also get a Tournament of Power stage, but I don't really know. The Tenkaichi series isn't, a battle royale or anything like that. Plus, we're only getting a handful of characters from the other universes. But they have been working on this game for 5 years at the very least, and they probably just been funneling all that Xenoverse money into this. So realistically, I feel like there should be plenty of stages, but who knows? I would love to see, a future Trunks timeline or like Destroyed West City type of stage, Planet Beerus, maybe even the Tournament of Destroyer stage, and to be real, I can't wait to destroy the Cell Games Arena myself. I'm waiting to do that personally. We're also allegedly going to be getting characters from Dragon Ball Daima, even though it's not out yet, so this leaves a lot to speculate over. Now, Dragon Ball Daima is a completely new original story where Goku and the others turn small because of some conspiracy, probably similar maybe to what happened to Goku in GT. Then they go on adventures to new and unknown mysterious places to turn things back to normal. It's supposed to be coming out in October, and considering how this was the last Dragon Ball anime installment that Akira Toriyama worked on, there's its own separate hype around this. But in the context of Sparking Zero, the idea that we're getting characters from Daima means that we could be getting another kid version of not just Goku, but also some other major characters as well. And this leads me to wonder, are we really about to have like dead ass 3 to 4 different versions of just early Dragon Ball Kid Goku, GT Goku, Daima Goku? There's probably another small Goku that's slipping my mind, to be honest, but dang. Next, let's talk about some of the new features. Of course, the game is going to have a lot of the same core mechanics as the previous Tenkaichi games, but there's also some new features as well that'll add a lot more depth to the combat system and hopefully demand a lot more strategic gameplay in the battles. These new features are going to be known as Short Dash, Revenge Counter, Super Perception, and Vanishing Assaults. Short Dash is a technique that lets you move at insanely fast speeds, and what's cool about this is that you can actually perform moves while simultaneously using Short Dash, like dodging an attack and then obliterating an opponent with a Kamehameha or something like that. We've seen Goku do that plenty of times in the story, so now we're going to be able to do that with a bunch of different characters as well. Then there's Revenge Counter, which is kind of like when characters in the story get hit, but they still can attack anyway and they don't really flinch, I guess. Like tanking an attack and then landing your own. Next is going to be Super Perception, which is about letting you counterattack while still in anticipation of your opponent's attacks. And finally, we have the Vanishing Assault that lets you speed blitz and pounce your opponents instantly. Again, this isn't something that's like super revolutionary, but it would give you a lot more options, add more depth to the gameplay, and also lead to more Dragon Ball looking and feeling battles, right? The movement is going to be either one of my main complaints or my favorite aspects of the game. I don't think there's going to be any in between. And don't worry guys, we are going to get to some of my personal concerns, but for now let's move on to the dialogue and the sound design. As others have pointed out already, the sound design did seem somewhat lacking in comparison to like the insane action within the gameplay itself, but I think it's going to take the game coming out and everybody to play it themselves to realize how hard the nostalgia factor is going to hit. They've recycled so many damage lines, sound effects, and other dialogue from previous Budokai Tenkaichi titles. All of this together with the new graphics and gameplay is going to be phenomenal. Now, the gameplay is way flashier than what we're used to, but you gotta love the attention to detail. That Unreal 5 engine is putting in some work. The environmental elements and the finesse regarding the auras and the blast is one thing, but then you also have the clothes that continue to get battle damaged as the fight goes on. We really eating good out here. But there is more to this video than just sucking off Sparking Zero, addressing the things that could actually ruin this game, which is very much possible. So is Sparking Zero gonna have local multiplayer or not? That's one big question for a lot of people still. I mean, what's the point if it's just online, right? The best thing about the Budokai Tenkaichi series is chilling alongside the homies on the couch and playing some Dragon Ball. For the record, the developers are aware that the local split-screen multiplayer option is a necessity for a lot of folks, but there are some complications with Sony and Microsoft, so don't go too crazy on the devs here. The game is exclusive to PS5 and Xbox S and X after all, so there's some issues, or so the producer Jun Furutani says. He did say that they're looking into how they can still add the split-screen multiplayer feature somehow, but I'ma be brutally honest with you guys. They've been at this game for like 5+ years now. If they haven't figured out how to do it in that time, I don't really know what we expect them to do in like 8 months to a year. That's just me being honest though. I feel like if we want this game to drop as soon as we're all saying, then we probably are gonna have to accept eventually that they're just gonna need a miracle to figure out local multiplayer at this point before release. Battling it out with all the homies is what these games are all about, and those of us who played Tenkaichi as a kid are grown now, so this is pulling the nostalgia strings really hard. But keeping us strictly online does significantly limit the amount of fun you can have with this game. I'll be transparent here though, that's not gonna affect whether I get the game or not. I am an online demon, a multiplayer I'm gonna lose sleep over this game. I just have to be better about recording all of it. Little known fact about Tech Time, the first 2 months of Guilty Gear Strive being out, I put like over 1,200 hours into that game. I was like a top 200 Zato player in the world, and I didn't record a lick of it. So I can't be doing that this time around. I'm sure eventually later down the line we'll get the local multiplayer mode feature, but because of the exclusive PS5 and Xbox X and S release, they'll probably just keep things as is. Hopefully this doesn't turn into the whole rollback situation like Fighters, where it takes years after the release of the game and then by the time they do it, the game's hanging on by a wet Cheeto now. At the very least, online play will be one of the biggest aspects of the game, so I would hope that we don't have to worry about absurd connection issues. We've seen with Guilty Gear Strive and Tekken 8 that it is possible to release a game with amazing online connection, and they can't be having their biggest draw to this game being mid, so I have high hopes for that at least. But that is not it though. We've done enough glazing of Sparking Zero in this video. Now we gotta talk about our real concerns. Because anime games have had a long track record lately of releasing, for lack of better words, an unfinished product. I mean, how are online fighting games dropping without simple things like the ability to make private lobbies or even a damn rematch button? Like, we're halfway through 2024 almost, fellas. We can't just keep blindly buying product that's not even complete on release and then having to wait months for updates that should have been included in the base game. I'm sick of that. A simple lobby system in an online fighter, I feel like, is the bare minimum. I mean, there's so much more to offer with this title besides story mode, rank match, and casual. Otherwise, there's only minor concerns like how frequent the more generic attacks like Ki Blast Volley and Full Power Energy Wave are gonna appear. Since there's so many characters and so many transformations, it's hard to imagine everyone and every single transformation are all gonna have unique and different movesets entirely, but it is possible. Plus, the inclusion of some of the more niche characters and even characters from Daima might lead to the exclusion of other major characters, but this might just be me being overworked. This goes for characters from Super too. I mean, I'm not sure how many people were looking forward to seeing Kakunsa in the game when we haven't even seen Caulifla or even Ribrianne for that matter. But with Kale already being revealed, I don't see how Caulifla and Kefla wouldn't be in the game. Maybe it'll be fine as long as transformations don't take up a significant portion of the roster, hopefully, but this also is going to trigger the debate about how transformations are going to be handled. We saw Goku and Vegeta transform during their fight in the trailer, but what about the other characters? Will Frieza get to go through all of his transformations in game? The initial look at what we presume to be the roster in the beginning and the end of the trailers shows both transformed and untransformed versions of characters, so I don't know. Still a lot of questions left to be answered. Ultimately, both the anticipation and the hype surrounding this game are very real. I mean, it's Dragon Ball and it's the first Tenkaichi game in like 15-16 years, but I feel like I have some legitimate concerns that I brought up in the video, and there's still the stigma regarding the lack of local multiplayer mode. That's just gonna be there and a complaint that they're gonna have to figure out how to deal with. It'll be a massive L if we never get the local multiplayer mode because the game looks badass, and even though I am an online fiend, playing native is and will always be a better experience than playing online no matter how good the connection is. I don't care if you have fiber like I do, nothing is gonna beat just playing on the same screen as somebody else. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero could very well be on its way to being the best Dragon Ball game of all time. I mean, they keep revealing new, more exciting characters and battle stages as we get closer and closer to that release date. I know we trying to stand on business, fellas. I get it. I'm sorry, but the hype around this game is gonna increase no matter what, with or without the local split screen multiplayer mode, with the more trailers we begin to see and the closer we get to that coveted release date. But I guess we are just gonna have to wait and see. So thank you guys so much for watching until the end of the video. As always, if you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Don't forget to go down below in the comments and let me know what your concerns are regarding Dragon Ball Sparking Zero and some of the things you're looking forward to the most, like some of the new mechanics or maybe just the new graphics themselves and being on the Unreal Engine 5. If you somehow have not already, consider leaving a like on the video to not only help us out in the algorithm, but also support some early Dragon Ball Sparking Zero content before the game even comes out, because the community is going to explode when the game finally does come out. Trust me, it's gonna be like a GTA drop almost, but for anime game. Don't forget to subscribe and turn those notifications on so you never miss a Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Sparking Zero video as soon as they go live over here. But anyways, have a great day, and I'm gonna see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.